Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 9.1, and of course we're playing as Germany. Up the speed one more. Okay, and what tech did we just get? Okay, recon unit coordination has increased to 3. Well, we are at least moment shifting up here to infrastructure type and other developments like supply production. Get that done. We're going to push ahead, almost a year ahead. That's what we're going to focus on, some of those. Salt concentration advance, that's very good. That's this one, which once we get this one, we'll be able to do superior firepower, which is a big one. But that's too far ahead right now. 38 will probably push on that. Yeah. These will be good, but these should be first. Submarine engines advance, well, great. Also too far ahead. Lightens up those, but again, we'll come up here. Broadcasting, I think, will be more useful faster. Mobile unit training. I would keep forgetting to do. I would play a bit more, though I notice I think they moved the standard pop-up over here, which is good. But these still sort of pop up here. And I'm always afraid that then I just Pavlov and his dogs and whatever conditioning is real. So I'm always just afraid of thinking I'm going to click on something and then boom, something pops up. And what was that I just clicked on? So that's why I pause it, because I think I could play, like, at least for this time at this speed, a lot of it reasonably comfortable without having to pause it if I didn't have to worry in my mind about clicking on things. Let's do radar. And what do we have? Okay. Airport level 2 and Bank of International Settlements. What do we have? Okay, you're up here a little bit more. Okay, so airport, air organization up a little bit. That's one of the least useful ones. Will be still some of our blueprints. Okay. Here we go. This is sort of what I've been waiting for it to see and come over. We got two things here to look at. Well, multiple things, but two big things. We've just started on these, haven't gotten them done, so this is left over from last year's giant infrastructure project and monumental architecture. So, giant infrastructure project, and we also have news and things. Part of this is when it's popping up. Railroad tycoon, mining, or farm mechanization. Okay, those are the three options we have, and they will grant So I went past them. Yeah, here we go. We got national highways from the Autobahn. I gave that earlier. Yes, they're continuing to be developed. I guess they're maybe even technically continue to be developed even after the war, but it slows down once the war. So the Autobahn's expanding, but there's no one else that has national highways. And just to give Germany a little, you know, they had well started on them before. Actually, they started on the project before Hitler comes to power. Hitler the project was going. It was real. It was actually starting to build some highway stuff, not much. It was in its very sort of starting phases, and it had at least most of the same goals. I can't maybe swear to every goal that the Nazis had with it, but Germany was still sort of, you know, war may come again. We want to have a war, you know, moving equipment and units and supplies around infrastructure, as well as, you know, that's sort of one of the Nazi things, but as well as economic booms and as well as just putting people to work. That was already going before Hitler comes to power. But Hitler really ramps it up. I mean, really sort of both, you know, getting out there with a shovel, you know, for the photographs and moving a few things of earth, as well as putting actual real resources, not just publicity behind it, but putting real resources behind it. Hitler is a you know, one of really sort of Hitler and the Nazis really sort of push this. So it's not a Nazi invention. It's not a Hitler invention. The ideas of a national highway system, but he gets behind it and pushes. So I figured we started at the beginning of 36. So you had 33, 34, and 35 already going, and no one else has national highways. USA, there is various paved road programs, but they're not anything like the Autobahn. It was really looking at the Autobahn really gets Eisenhower when he's president, because obviously Eisenhower, you know, leading the Allied armies into Germany, really looking at that going, America could really use that. Not just that it's a good idea. Everybody could probably who really saw cars and trucks, you know, trucking as a good thing. Yeah, it's a good thing. But he really sort of experiences it, and yes, this is something to get behind in America and push our national highway system based on looking at the Autobahn. There are some pre-war stuff, but it's not any sort of nationalized idea of highways, especially not, I know very much for sure, not an interstate, you know, between state highways. There's a little bit, I'm trying to vaguely think, that I think was before the war. I'm thinking of the Pasadena Freeway. I think that was before the war. And it was come basically down from Pasadena down to sort of the ocean area. And it was 2 lanes each way, and I haven't been on it in years. And they thought when, because again, I'm not exactly sure on the date, it may be post-war, but it's right around. Sort of talk about some of that stuff from, if you remember the movie Roger Rabbit, some of that is sort of based on, obviously there's cartoons and other stuff in it, but it was sort of the development of the Pasadena Freeway. They're all the big thinkers, all the thing. Nope, it's never going to be used. It's never, you know, it's a big boondoggle. All the costs going into it. It's hardly going to be used. Once they built it and they got it all built, and then they opened it up to public use. Within the first week, it was being utilized at over the maximum. They thought maximum capacity of the highway. I'm pretty sure this is pre-war, but if you look at it, it's not really an Autobahn. It's not, because I've driven on some of the Autobahn way back when, and obviously a lot of you have, and off modern freeways. It's not. It's a very. When I was last on it, it was a very quaint freeway, and it didn't seem like a freeway. I mean, it in the sense that even in this time they still had a few places, other streets crossing it. You know, as opposed to, because the idea of an Autobahn or a freeway, roads of any other type, whether another freeway or I know all of you know this, but whether it's a freeway or just in-town roads, they either go under or over the highway. The Pasadena one still had a few things, and I think but much later they were all removed. But weird sort of little pull-offs that you had to be going much slower, much faster. Really sort of hard to drive on the last time I drove, and it's been probably more than 15 years since I've been on it, and I was never on it much. And so within like the first week, it was operating cars on it more than they thought the maximum that it could handle, and it's only gotten worse. So that is a freeway that I'm pretty sure that predates World War II. Correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, but it's not a national highway. It's just going from one part of Greater LA to another part of Greater LA. And so things like that did exist, but not in a national highway. And there was no concept, really, literally no legal sort of concept in America for roadways to be under national supervision, because the highway, the interstate highways, is sort of under national supervision in certain ways, as opposed to states. And when they were planned out and developed, to sort of connect the states and the major cities within a state, but also between states. And so where the state funding would be all sort of looking internal. So that was really Eisenhower's pushing for the U.S. So the U.S., and basically no one else should have this. Obviously, you want to, pick it, you can. But that would be, one of the major projects you get to do. But Germany, I sort of count, they've already got it. So, mining, that looks good. Cost us some manpower, cost us some IC, which I don't like. Not to say I'm saying it's wrong, but we get a 10% bonus in crude oil, 10% in energy, and 10% in metal. That's really good. Railroad Tycoon, 2% IC efficiency, so production efficiency's up. That's good. That's pretty good. And with, obviously there's no negative cost here, and supply throughput up 10%. And I totally agree with that. I might almost argue that Germany, if you look at the railway maps of Germany, should have Railway Tycoon too, but can't give Germany everything. Germany should not have agricultural industry. Germany through the RAD, they were working on it. Britain definitely shouldn't have it. America maybe, even though it's not, well, it is somewhat industrialized, but America is such an agriculturally based nation. They produce more food than they could ever eat, at the time at least, and to this day, if we wanted it. Relatives of mine own farms, and I don't think any relatives of mine are farming. There may be farming going on some of the farms, but they don't farm it. I mean, close relative, cousins or uncles, aunts, uncles. Distant, yeah, because some of their relatives and further out, they do farm, have farms. But last I specifically heard, the government's paying them not to farm. Leave this in grass and leave this in trees and whatever, and we'll pay you to do it. Okay, yeah, good. Because they don't want too much competition. I mean, so in America, the government pays farmers not to farm. So just so that you know that, people around the world, the U.S. government pays farmers to not to plant something, just don't plant anything. Yeah, just like, hey, let the ground heal, let the ground hang out. The next guy over, he gets to grow enough wheat, because if you grow wheat too, the price of wheat goes down. We can grow so much food, it's just ridiculous. So I might give that to the U.S., just not because it's so agricultural industry, just because it's so capable. Collectivization of farms, that's, I think, only available to communist powers. So obviously we can't get that. We're going to go with mining first here. So we're going to do the mining thing. I think that will be the best, because we'll get a lot more crude oil, energy and metal, which we, unlike last time, currently though, we may, with changing of laws and spiking of ICs, we might have a problem with that, but that'll keep us from doing that. And right now, the only thing that would really help us effectively is IC efficiency, so we don't really need that now. Agricultural industry, if like I say, they're putting in as something to pick. Britain starts only really They really only start doing it post the war, once the war gets going. Once the war starts, post-war start, to grow, to increase manpower. If we get a chance, we'll do that later on for our manpower bonus. But not that it wouldn't be useful, increase manpower, but I think this will be the best one. Okay. But we're gonna be sort of tricky about some of this just because of the money situation. Okay. Big building thing. What's this? Generically called monumental architecture. We get one of those, so we have to pick that. Which monumental architecture here? Most all of them are reasonably good. I think a few of them, and I don't know if it's changed. Well, now I think originally maybe the movie studio only did money with it. I don't know. Daily descent reduction, that wouldn't be bad. But one of these, but I think it was, or maybe it's the Imperial Finance Ministry. Well, somebody did one of them, I don't know, math and figured out in no reasonable way from the actual money cost of the thing would you ever get it back. Okay, leadership plus 5% and research efficiency at plus 5%. That may be what we'll do. That's a good one. I mean, a lot of these are good. Palace of Justice, I normally don't need the money that much to want ruling party support. Party of the Palace, well, if we've got a lot of money coming in, ruling party support, that's great, but we don't have that big of a problem, though it would be helpful. Imperial seat of government, that's nice, because you get the leadership bonus plus other, including national unity and ruling party support. Daily descent down, that's good. If we were really facing that, but we're really not so much. Meaning, so long as we're maintaining our needed consumer goods. Though, of course, you could do less than you need for consumer goods, theoretically, that would give a negative opinion, but balance it out with the movie studio there. National revolt risk is nice, and, you know, if you're pleased, but we don't really have that problem now. So I think right now, because even though we're pushing ahead, it's better to get the leadership now, the big leadership bonus and the research efficiency bonus, to last longer, where, like, land organization, we don't care about land organization now because we're not at war. Once we're at war, we care, you know, all these things. We care about that. It will be useful later on, so we can take it later. Even we can take it in 40 or 41, you know, I mean, it'll still be helpful there. And although like this, research efficiency, you know, like I said, I'm taking that research efficiency, which is a good chunk there, is stealing stuff from other nations. So we're going to pick, but we're going to go with that because it's not just research efficiency, it's both. Leadership. Okay, and which radio programs we want to do. Come over and look at that. Okay, we've got the small of all of those. So consumer goods during wartime minus 2%. I already know I'm going to do this just because it's going to reduce my consumer goods down more, which will help the ICs. Because right now, again, I don't need any of territorial pride or anything yet. I mean, it'd be useful later. Small news in politics is useful because national unity and ruling party support. That's my second choice. But if I'm going to do one first, I'm going to start with entertainment shows. So what we want to do here is come here. And we want to click entertainment shows. Mining, so to be careful. Now, of course, it grays out the other ones, but all these things, if we click through, we lose the money, and then we wouldn't have wouldn't because part of the conditions here is to have enough money. That's part of the reason why this didn't fire earlier, because I didn't have enough money in the bank. Because there's a check for these banks to have enough money in the bank, and that's why I wanted to build up my money. I've been sort of focused on this to get this money up because I wanted these things to fire. And now that they fired, and but once I sort of accept them, some of these are gonna gut my money. What was it? University. So we want university. But once I fire that, these things have fired. Good, mining university. So, okay. Yes, build this again. Minus 2,000 money, and whatever look oft means, as opposed to not now. I know what not now means. We're gonna do this. Okay, see, this puts us in the massive hole, and you might as well do this all at once. And new projects. This is like a cool down thing, I think, that we'll get once we click over with the improvements. Okay, now I think partially some of that stuff is starting to positively affect us. Radar decryption machine, that's useful but not really necessary yet, or useful yet. Well, let's start on these. There we go. So we've dealt ourselves a big blow. And the next day I'll come back. And the university one, I think it was, that gave us another thing. So we've got these effect, like I said, but man, we're gonna. Oh, and also 10% raw. I guess that was just off the screen. Too many things, so we even get that. So we're gonna be really helped out by some of that. And the leadership, we're going to now be helped out with even more. Oh, well, that's what. Yeah. Get those going. We're not getting the money because somebody else is not getting their supplies. But hopefully this will all dig our way out of this. And soon, Air Force HQs. That's construction of anti-air artillery HQs. And Air Force HQs. Really construction of those? What the hell are they talking about? I don't think we actually get to construct them, but I guess there's what they're meaning. I think they're maybe meaning these things. Air Force level HQs 1. But we're gonna wait a little bit. Try to dig our way out of the hole so that we are able to hit that. And naval HQs, great. We're gonna let these go because I want to build these up. Submarine hull advance. Okay, good. We're getting some pretty high-tech subs. Well, let's get these going. If we're gonna build them, might as well get them better year to date. And air launch torpedoes, yay! Air launch torpedoes, good. But we, as I said, we could do better CAGs, but oh, it's under carriers, isn't it? We sort of already got some of that, but yay. Let's come back here. Agriculture. Yeah, we're going to do the agriculture here. That will also help the manpower too. Come on, let's get to a couple thousand supplies. Yeah, all negative modifiers except for the women's rad so far. There will be some other positive modifiers coming for supplies. Oh, we stole some British blueprints. Good. Oh, CAG fighter focus. Just talking about CAG. So, another area. Well, at least that's doing fairly well this time. So now our fighter's up to level 40 focus. Obviously, these are, I think, built all the same unit, just how much bomber capability, how much air capability they have. But yeah, good. I do think we will build a carrier at some point, you know, get it completed, and maybe put some aircraft on it. Okay, we're about halfway to where I want to be for supply. At least. Okay, infantry unit command and control. Okay, great. Okay, that's all 38s, but a little more structural type improvements. Artillery is still 39. That may be the thing. Now let's push ahead with this. Come on, a couple more days, I don't know exactly what the cost will be for these. Oh, a bunch of stuff now. They may have big costs. Well, if we got a bunch, let's just go through these. I would rather have one big deficit than a lot of little deficits. Okay. Each of those wants. Okay, was transferred to Gressel on Mars, forming the Messerschmitt 109Ds as the main aircraft. Okay, remove, add, okay, cool. Forming the, Kampfgeschwader 157 bulk. Sorry. I'm happy if you guys want to laugh at me Germans for my bad German. It's appalling, I'm sure. Forming the Kampfgeschwader, whatever. Okay, cool. Forming the first Flieger Corps HQ, good. Forming the first Commander Admiral's HQ, cool. So, yeah, I knew I was gonna do that. Now, is it over here? Yes, okay. We'll attach you to, yeah, I guess so. We'll give this useful a bit, but not the big one that I really sort of particularly want. Okay, Albrecht, we'll put you in command of that. What I did want was the Flieger Corps. This is the first Flieger Corps that we have. We'll call it Flieger Corps F. Now this is unhistorical. I know it. Let's attach you to a air unit here. Don't you have an air unit in Berlin? Maybe you got too many units attached to it. Okay, alright, just outside. Okay. But it just helps me with organization. Is why I do it. Oh, come on, yes, go. Demote you. But so let's sort of continue this. I'm going to attach my fighter units to this HQ. Enjoy the show. We lose money again. We're going negative, but we want to get all that done with. I'll do most of this maybe off air because it takes a bit of while to scroll down to the right place and find it. Oh, there it is. Oh, right there, Flieger Corps F. We give them supplies for money, sure. And so now we are at negative. We got a little bit more money. That's good, 2%. That'll help. And consumer goods is down by another 2%. So that means we're going to leave this for the moment because it'll help reduce our I want to build these guys back up big again. Let's see again if I can try to get this to be like, maybe hope it, oh no, that's way too big. Oh, come on, 40, there we go. Half, just leave it there, see if that'll do good. There we go. So we're good. We got a big bunch of those came in. We're down at 522 for production cost, and we're going to keep lowering it a bit here at a time. So now even with a bunch of negatives, like mining down 5%, some of those will go away, like pre-war airports and pre-war level rail, those will go away in time. The mining won't. Oh shoot, I keep again talking about Pavlov. I can just habit. I'm just habit of hitting. Ah, come on. There we go. Habit of hitting that. Okay, I just thought FW Ashman and Sons, but just the guy looking at his skull cap and smiling so big. There's the sort of full poster of it, but zoomed in on it. I just thought that was. I gather it's a private manufacturer of uniforms, not just the SS, but party and other stuff. Yeah, they're rather good ones, but to me that was just too precious of an advertisement. That is that small thing. That is, I mean, it's, you know, full size poster kind of thing, but this is the real advertisement. So the SSHQ is King 30. That is the effect I could come up with from that, but. I'm gonna be the evilest guy in town. I don't know, I just... 4-engine transport plane prototypes have advanced. Great. And that is pushing too far ahead now. So, of course, we're gonna stop that. Still not... So, let's see. Still here. Okay. Well, let's do things that we're going to sort of build and whatnot. Well, let's get single engine fighter prototypes up. Been researching. Okay, so now we're back to positive coming in. Definitely building more than we need. Medium armor design's great. Which is grayed out, fine. 3-man turret, absolutely. We're going for that. 3-man turret, HQ, Spearhead Doctrine, and other things are coming. Armored support choice. Okay, well let's... Gonna be something that lots and lots of things to do here. I presume it's going to be that, you know, 4 out of that. Huh. Well, especially some of these late ones. I don't think we want to do late stuff. Yeah. Self-propelled artillery, because if we're going to do this, I want to make it fast. So I want to stay away from the towed guns. So like things like tank destroyer or self-propelled AA maybe. Oh, heavy AA. Hard attack +1, soft attack +1 for each level. 6 levels. Armored support. Yeah, I do. I mean, just emotionally, almost literally, I'd love to have the idea of the flak 88s everywhere I put them, but the armored engineers are an expensive thing. So doing that with levels of upgrade. We really sort of help keep that in sub. And softness, they don't seem to affect speed, where well, I don't know if these affect speed either, so let's see here. Well, that's going off the scale. I can't read that. Can't read that. There's too many conditions. Heavy assault versus heavy tank. I'm just trying to see if there's a negative. Well, maybe none of these have negative speeds. Heavy armor upgrade, medium armor upgrade, light armor upgrade. Don't know exactly how those are different than these other things. Some of these may be one and dones later on. I don't know. It has country anti-aircraft. Oh, okay. Okay, I think I see now. Okay, I think I see. Obviously, we haven't checked it out. There's, if you have anti-air upgrades, armored, have the country flag, anti-air upgrades, armored. Have the anti-air upgrades, armored. So this may be a one and done to upgrade that generally. So, okay. Well, let's go back to this. Definitely want engineers, because that's just sort of an expensive one. Well, so would we do armor or assault gun? Maybe assault gun, tank destroyer. Tank destroyer, hard attack, soft attack. +3. Assault gun, hard attack 0.5. So assault gun doesn't do much on hard attack. Soft attack 1.7 per level. Soft attack. The tank destroyer looks like it's going to be better. Looks like, I mean, because obviously you got medium and heavy. We may get some more information when we look there. Okay, so let's try this out. So now that we can do armor, let's do support armored choices. Okay. Okay, this event chain allows you to choose 4 upgrade groups for your armored support brigades. Once chosen, those will be the only techs available for research. Each group can be selected only once. If you misclick or forget what you picked, do not panic. You can redirect to previous step and you can choose again. Warning, once you've completely done with this selection, so after picking the 4th group, confirm that it's your final step. It will be impossible to change this selected text later in the game. So plan carefully. Okay, so tanks, tank destroyers, self-propelled, I'm just reading the symbols here, self-propelled artillery, assault guns, armored anti-aircraft, armored engineers, armored car reconnaissance type element. Okay. That's 7. So is there going to be 7? Yes. Okay, so there is just the 7 zones, and so some of those other sub-zones, I guess, we'll get to like upgrade specially later, maybe, and maybe depending upon, I'm guessing now, because some of this stuff says self-propelled anti-aircraft artillery must be. Okay, so some of these guys will just be, some of these specialty ones will be coming along later. Some of these, I'm guessing, the 1 through whatever's, will be sort of like the other ones. You get to which artillery do you want, medium or light or whatever, or self-propelled artillery upgrade, and then rocket. I don't know. Some of these will definitely look like they're one and done. Some of these might just be super long names, but I'm not absolutely sure. Okay, so we want to do armor or engineer upgrade. That's for sure. I want that. Now it's a little more tricky. I think we're going to leave recon to a specialized recon unit. So that takes that off. Assault guns versus armor upgrade versus anti-tank upgrade. Okay. Anti-tank will be the tank killers. I'm still clicking back over here. Heavy assault guns. So this will step up 1 through 5, hard attack plus half of 1. Where this will be hard attack each step up plus 3. So that would be really a lot more hard attack. But it doesn't affect piercing. Because I'm guessing here, AT build, heavy AT, AA, SP, AA. No. Armor piercing gap. A lot of different things. Okay, combined armor, assault group, armor. Mixed support piercing attack. Down their way. SS mixed support piercing attack. So these will, going through these will help the piercing. So medium tank upgrades, yeah. Destroyer, heavy tank destroyer. Hard attack, soft attack, defensiveness. Wow, okay, tough choice. I sort of emotionally want to do assault guns. Just because that's sort of cool and German and Stugs and whatnot. But the hard attack just doesn't seem all that great. Tank destroyer seems better. I say we're going to leave armored car for recon. You know, separate. And so we're probably going to do self-propelled artillery or something maybe. We're going to do artillery. Yeah, artillery, since we're going to do artillery of one sort or another here. And that will give a lot more soft attack. So we can sort of focus that there. So if we do artillery and anti-tank. I don't know that we need the air that bad. We don't need the air that bad. Oh, but that would give us our heavy flat guns. Heavy anti-air upgrade. Okay, well no, it's multiple levels. Obviously, so you'd have to pick that one. I'm trying to maybe a little bit more mobile of the thing. So I'm going to go, we don't need the anti-air up. So we're going to go my second group there, which is anti-tank. So it also says double pick. I like the way they do that. Artillery upgrade. Third upgrade. Nice early priest it looks like. And we're going to do Stugs as well. So anti-tank and assault guns. Is going to be, so we're going to do the assault guns, anti-tank, armored engineer, and self-propelled artillery. Oh, you selected upgrade group that was already selected. Please choose another one. What did I just do? Okay, we have anti-tank. Artillery. Okay, I think I just missed. Alright, yeah, I didn't get it to the right. Fourth group, Stugs. Take me to the last step. Yes. So now we have our Stugs. Now we haven't yet researched assault guns, so we can't yet pick assault guns or heavy artillery or whatever. I don't know whether these. We're gonna go regular, but cool. Hope that's helpful to you and not just entirely boring. Oh, damn it! Keep doing this. Oh no, that's too big. I just want to have it locked. Locked in right at about 40. So we're doing less than half of an IC, just sort of permanently doing that. 110, we need to build this up a bunch more. To pay for things, because I don't want to keep going into that deficit, disrupting our trade. Because sometimes what can happen is, whether it's a smaller nation that would keep trading, but since it stops it, and so the AI just stops it. Other times, sort of stops it, and it's a country that doesn't like us as much anymore, so it just, since it sort of stopped anyways, it just completely stops it. Okay. The NSFK, the National Socialistische Fliegerkorps, the NSFK, founded in April 15th, 1937, as a successor to the German Air Sports Association. The General der Flieger, Frederick Christensen, pictured there. That is a naval uniform, so I believe he was a naval flyer. Is the NSFK Korpsführer. So, like it says, it to a large degree, it is a name change, and it's been around for some time. And obviously, it's a somewhat covert attempt to train pilots and officers and other people in air operations secretly, covertly, or if not secret or covertly, but sort of disguised, so we're not officially. I'm waiting for a little bit more to come up here. Breaking the Versailles rules of having an air force been going on. Just how big that is. Mobile unit command and control. Good. Well, let's move this to another 37 tech here. Keep those going. Okay, now that we are in the positive over what we're going to need, not by much, but at least we're not going negative. Okay, gun ability, twin engine airplanes has advanced. Great. Is it here? Yes, okay, cool. So we have that now. And are there any other 37 technologies that we should just be doing because it's 1937? Not really. Okay, well, so then let's come down here and do ground fighter cruise. Fighter ground cruise. Oh, we have another type. Oh, okay. Over here. Not set to popping or pop up and pause. That doesn't be good to get it popped up, but at least it'll pause it. Okay, mountain warfare equipment research has finished. Here. Good. Well, okay, the resignation of Dr. Gordeller. I hope that I'm getting that right. In the fall of 1936, Mayor of Leipzig, Dr. Karl Gordeller, ongoing dispute with Hake over the Mendelssohn statue, that's that, came to a head after much argument. Gordeller agreed to have the statue moved from its location in front of the Waldhaus Concert Hall to a less high-profile position. Gordeller left for a trip to Finland, promoted by the German Chamber of Commerce, and during his trip the statue was demolished on Hake's orders. Upon his return, Hake stated that the matter of the statue was the only outward occasion of conflict, and declared that Dr. Gordeller's attitude in the Jewish question had been revealed particularly clearly in the matter of Mendelssohn Bartholdy's statue. Tried to have the statue rebuilt, failing that. Okay, declined to accept re-election. Yes, he's eventually becomes one of the conspirators against Hitler and killed in the aftermath of the attempt on Hitler's life. Tried for that and whatnot. So we gained dissent. This represents the various ongoing, and as I've said, there were some people standing up to the Nazis. And a lot of these people liked a lot of what the Nazis were doing, rebuilding Germany, making Germany a better place. But they really objected to other policies. But not enough people stood up to say no. And I know I was harsh in another episode recently about all it would have taken for the German people to protest. But I'm not saying other nations' peoples would have protested, okay? I want to be clear about that. Because even in large groups, most people are cowards. They really are. You sort of got to get things organized, get leadership going, and have a certain level of group safety and assured, and there just mostly wasn't going on that way. And so most people aren't going to spontaneously do that. We'd all want to think we're the person that would stand up against the crowd and say do the right thing, but time and time again in history, most people, when it's not even that hard in modern day America, they don't stand up and say do the right thing. They stand up and say, do the popular thing. Right now, America, the kids want to ban guns. Yeah, no, that ain't going to happen, sorry. And they were just so... I saw that one picture and I feel really bad for the kids that died, obviously, and were wounded, or feel the worst for, but also the ones that were traumatized by the event. Trust me, I feel bad, and I understand all their hurts, and I feel they want something done. I get all of that. But like that one photo of that they've been passing all over Twitter recently, and probably Facebook and everything else, but that I don't watch, of the kids just breaking down when their gun bill that they were pushing, that had a few Democrats probably supporting in the state Florida legislature to ban assault weapons in Florida, and they were just shocked and crying because it didn't pass. What person thought to tell those kids that that bill had any even inkling of a chance to pass. You should have said, oh, this is going to fail completely. We can try it, but it ain't ever going to go anywhere. We can try it. But they just, and I, looking at that photo, and I think they were just really, truly devastated because somebody, I don't know who, whether it's some Democratic legislators or news media people or their parents or somebody well, they're just going to have to do it now. And, in memory of those who went through this thing, and no, we're not giving up our Second Amendment. Florida ain't a state that's going to give up its Second Amendment. It's not one of those, it's not California. And so, it's just not going to do it. And, according to Dianne Feinstein, senator, Democratic senator from the state of California, for everyone out there who doesn't know, including most Americans, but Senator Dianne Feinstein, who big supporter or initiator of the Feinstein bills to ban assault weapons repeatedly and often, and whenever she gets the chance in the U.S. Senate. She's a big anti-assault weapons gun ban person. She wants to ban a gun, the AR-15 gun, that according to herself, that she says, this isn't some stat that I'm making up from somewhere else. This is her stat. That gun, you know how many people it kills a year in America? The AR-15 that they want to ban? You know how many people it kills a year? Every year in America? Her stats, her thing that she says out of her mouth or out of her legislative office with these stats. You know how many people it kills a year that she needs to ban this gun? 54 people a year in America are killed by the AR-15. 54 people are killed a year by the AR-15. Is this? No, that's Detroit. But about the same. Chicago, the city of Chicago, or the city greater metropolitan area of Chicago. This last weekend, well, maybe 2 weekends ago or whatever. I don't know exactly when this is going to show up or this, whatever. But in the recent, just randomly picked, just happened to be this last weekend. 8 people were killed, 33 people shot in the city of Chicago. Not by AR-15, but by handguns. Just in the greater city area of Chicago. They may be little local city municipalities or whatever, but I think that is actually just in the city of Chicago. Not anywhere, not even, suburbs. I think that is just in the city limits of Chicago. 8 people shot. 8 people killed in a weekend, in 2 days. Or roughly 2 days, maybe you're counting Friday night or something like that. But in 2 days, 8 people killed by guns, by gun murders, by gunshots. And 33 people wounded by gunshots. And I am almost absolutely sure that none of those were assault weapons. Almost. It could be, 1 or 2 wounding or killing. But probably they're all handguns, because that's what it's doing it. In the city, and all guns basically are banned in the city of Chicago. And I know you Germans, and but if we could just save 54 people, or that's just crazy, and we got to ban more guns, and do that. And they have gun bans in Chicago. Yeah, guns aren't banned necessarily, depends on what they are in the state of Illinois. And if you go down here in Kentucky, guns are very easy to get. Still got to do a background check. But they have what they call straw purchases. It comes in, hi, I'm George. Here's my driver's license, George. Do a background check. That's good. Thank you. Thanks for this gun. And he buys this gun this week, and he sells it for double the money to some gang member in Chicago. Next week, hi, to a different gun store. Does another background check. I'm George. Here's my ID. Buys it and then sells it to a different gang member. That's how a lot of it's getting in. And they're called straw purchasers. And if the ATF and the FBI were to get off their ass And because all these are all computerized tracked, and going, George is buying a gun a week. Maybe we should look at George. Oh, it's a Glock. Every week he buys a Glock. Every week he buys a Glock. Maybe there's a criminal activity going there. This isn't George, the gun collector, who one day buys a German Luger, another day buys a Japanese Nambu pistol. Sort of you want to find out. I think it's like $60 or $80. I got a Nambu pistol. I want to buy a box of ammo for it, but it's incredibly expensive. I mean, incredibly, because no one really makes Nambu ammo anymore. But there's some small manufacturer that makes real Nambu ammo for it. It's sort of a strange neck-down cartridge, and they put it in a box that looks just like the boxes from World War II, as if it were new, with the Japanese writing on it. And it's sort of a little funny little box, because actually on the Nambu holster, instead of having like an extra magazine, they they have the magazine in the gun, but they have a little pouch on the holster, and I got one and that's just sort of the reason I want to get the ammo for it, more than wanting to shoot it, because I couldn't afford to shoot the ammo really. Is that to go in that pouch is sort of this little, I think it's like a 30-round box of ammo or something, pistol ammo, that a little cardboard box with some paper, printed on it, glued on the paper, that fits right into a little sort of pouch on the side of the pistol, on the side of the holster, that goes into it I think it's like 30 rounds, maybe it's 20, I don't know, right offhand. It's been years since I looked at my holster or the box or whatever. So, buying ammo for an Nambu, gang members don't want an Nambu pistol from Japan in World War II, because you get the most high-tech ammo, super kill bullet armor piercing for a 9mm is going to be so much cheaper than Nambu ammo per round. But I just sort of like to get some to sort of complete my collection for that thing. So if it's some gun collector guy and they go, oh yeah, this George, hey, he's a gun collector. He buys all kinds of weird guns, and often they're different and periodic. And he also periodically sells them, but he sells them through the right purpose. But the other George, who buys a Glock every week, we want to go knock on his door because we went to a judge and got a warrant, because for the last 52 weeks he's bought 52 Glocks, and he doesn't seem like he has much of a job because he's on welfare. So he doesn't really have a thing. So we presented to a judge and evidence that there's reasonable suspicion that George may be being a straw purchaser for guns because he's on welfare. And now you're not going to catch everybody like this, but they don't do this, because I've worked in the gun industry. They never do this stuff. Trust me on this. But if they were to do this stuff, they would find out that George, and then go knock on George's door. Well, where are these 52 Glocks that you bought in the last year, George? Where's 20 of them, George? You mean you don't have any of these Glocks, George? If you are selling more than like 5 guns in a year or something like that, you're moving them across state lines, even carrying them yourself like that, selling more than 5 guns a year, you're a gun dealer without a gun dealer's license. That is a felony. Okay? So you can do it 2 or 3 times. It's maybe, and it depends on the laws of the state. Some laws allow 2 guys who know each other to sell, without going through a background check, to sell a gun from George to Sam. But they have to know each other. The way you can know each other is look at their driver's license and, confirm that that's Sam. And normally you get a receipt, because way back in the dark ages in California, you could do this, and I did this. I sold a couple of guns, and I'm sure somewhere in my file records I still have the receipts from back in the early 80s, selling a few guns. It was, at that time, it was perfectly legal, and the way I knew the person is I looked at the license and looked at, yep, that's the guy, yep, okay, and I took down the details of the information on his driver's license, his name, his address, his driver's license number, so that if they ever come back and knocked on my door and said, where's this, Beretta pistol or whatever, where is this? Well, I sold it to Sam, and here's his name, and here's his address, here's his driver's license number. You go check on Sam. And they could trace it that way. That was the way you had to do private gun sale purchases. But if you're moving guns and selling them more than like 5 a year or something, you've become technically if you're a gun trader collector, they aren't going to do it. But there's also a gun gun sort of curios and relics license is what it's called. So if they're old enough guns, it's not getting a full FFL, federal firearms license. It's just sort of a, they're still real guns and they're still real stuff. But if you're sort of like doing gun shows, doing a little bit of stuff, not a big time gun show guy with a big table, but doing a little bit of stuff, you can do that sort of the curios and relics license in most states, not in the state of California, but in most states. And I don't know what it is in the state of Louisiana. State law trumps any of the federal licenses like that if they need more stuff. But so again, if the ATF were to get off their ass, they would shut down a lot of these criminal things. 33, because I know this, just happened to from watching this thing on television, that somebody checked the stats online. 33 shot or wounded, plus 8 killed in Chicago alone in approximately a 2-day period from gun violence. Okay? It's not assault weapons. And where do most mass shootings happen? I don't have a percentage number, but we can maybe go very high. I'm sure it's probably over 80%. Where do most mass shooting happen at? A place called the gun-free zone. If it's a gun-free zone, that's where the mass shooting happens. And of course, worse some of these, the Las Vegas shooting, the worst mass shooting in the history of man. That recent Las Vegas. Nope. Worst mass shooting in the history of man? Well, the worst mass shooting in the history of man happened in Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union and in China and in other places like that. But that's another argument about guns. But the worst sort of civil mass shooting in peacetime by a lone gunman, Norway. Won't say his name. I know it. Don't want to give him the infamy. But in Norway was the worst mass shooting. Oh, how easy is it to get guns in Norway? Oh, incredibly hard. That sure didn't stop the worst mass shooting in the, last 30 years or whatever in a communist totalitarian dictatorship type situation. Well, maybe there's more in Mexico if you talk about the drug war, but that's another thing, and we don't have good stats on that. But you know what I'm meaning. So and that was the big thing was at that youth camp where there were no guns in the gun-free zone. So where do they happen in gun-free zones? You know how many mass shootings there's been at gun shows? And I've been to lots of gun shows, so I know how gun shows work and what you have to do to get guns in there. You know how many mass shootings at gun shows? 0. 0 mass shootings at gun shows. And there's a whole lot more guns. A lot more guns in a gun show than there is in a gun-free zone. Think about that, people. And think about that, Europeans, when you're complaining about it. And I don't know, per capita, whether Norway has had more deaths from mass shootings than the U.S., but at one time they did mainly because of that one thing. But some of these other mass shootings that have happened around in other countries, just because the population is smaller, if you look at the overall population of the U.S. from the mass shootings, not the gang violence that are the 8 a week and, weekend in Chicago, killing. That's terrible. So Dianne Feinstein and these gun banning people that want to ban the AR rifle are trying to stop 54 people from being killed a year. Well, there was something like, 3,000 people killed a year in the United States from knife attacks or something. I was watching another thing. Or some multiple thousands of people from knife attacks. Now, I don't know if they were assault weapon knives or kitchen knives, the big sort of biggie knit kitchen knife, but they were killed by those things. So they're trying to ban something that, yes, creates, and I know this is another preachy thing, but creates some mass tragedies and that are really bad, and God, I feel bad about all that stuff. But for the percentage of the population, they they're talking about very few people. And then, of course, you can say, well, we ban all guns and we round up all guns. And if we get rid of all guns, it'll stop all gun deaths. Just like banning all drugs stops all gun use or all drug use. We can see how well banning all drugs has stopped drug use and drug deaths. Yeah, how did that work out? Okay, I know I'm on a soapbox on this, but... So yes, I don't think any of this stuff... Now, we can talk about measures, and some good measures that I think would work. Would really work to reduce these mass violences. Of course, one of them would be enforce the law. The FBI was warned twice on this last guy. And on the Texas church shooting, he was banned from owning the firearms, but the damn Navy, I think it was, or whatever, the armed forces didn't report his felony convictions, or which his felony convictions for some of the stuff, or his domestic abuse stuff. If he had reported either of those things, it would have stopped him from buying his guns. Now, yeah, he could have stole them from someplace. Yes, but he wouldn't have gotten them the way he got them. If they just enforced the law, more than half of these incidents wouldn't have happened. But no, they won't enforce the law. Which maybe says they can't enforce the law because they're not effective. But so adding more laws doesn't mean that the more laws will be enforced. Okay, Seaport. Okay, we're going to stop that for at least a while, until 38 or later, because we don't need to push those ahead. Okay, right now, you just got to keep checking for everything I want to push ahead on is... we'll wait on those. Okay, we'll do the Monroe effect. And so, yes, I do sort of know. I mean, it's been years since I've actively worked in the firearms industry, so I'm not up to date on the exact up to the minute California laws. But trust me, I knew them all forwards and backwards, and every single thing. Dealing with them when I worked there, because I had to enforce them. I had the people fill out the paperwork. I did the stuff. I know the reactions. I know what's going on. I know it intimately. And we had a lot of gun guys, shall we say, few gun girls, but gun guys that were really into guns, buying stuff. And then we had where I worked, and at least in one of the places, a lot of new people that weren't familiar with it. How do we do this? What's going on? And they were sort of, you mean you have to do all this to get a gun? I thought it was easier to get guns than it is to get NyQuil in Florida, as some legislature or somebody in the news media or something said. It's easier to get a gun in Florida than it is to get NyQuil. Well, unless you're a police officer, it's, I think, a 2-week waiting period or something like that to get a gun in Florida. You don't need that 2-week waiting period to get NyQuil or some other thing. They're lying to the media and to you non-gun people about how easy it is to legally get guns in America. Okay, the Sudetendeutsches Party draft a six laws for compulsory reporting of certain nationalities and their inclusion in the National Register, and create additional legal guarantees nationalities living within the Republic. So this is part of the SDP's push in there, and I'm just sort of waiting for this to get a little bigger. Okay, can we sell more supplies to the U.S.? I know last we checked, they sort of supplied out, but okay, good, yay. Getting cheaper and cheaper, but Seaport level 2, good. Oh, the Great Officer Purge, and Morgan Freeman is born. Okay, establish the Sicherheits- und Hilfsdienst. Security and Assistance Service provided the organization Mobile Civil Defense Strike Force for the 106 towns of the first category regarded as the most vulnerable to wartime air attack, and the German Air Raid Protection Organization structure established on the 4th of May 1937. It evolved into a conscripted service established as a reserve occupation whose members were exempted from military service but were also not allowed to hold other employment. The SHD units were housed in barracks with a rotating staffing pattern. Reserve occupation whose members were exempted from military service but were also not. Okay. Eventually, it gets into that. Allowed personnel to sleep at home each night. Call-outs for attacks permitting. The mission included firefighting, rubble clearance, urban search and rescue, building repair, emergency medical services, and the location and delivery of disaster supplies. Like the Reich Bund and the British Air Raid Precautions personnel, and unlike the United States Civil Defense, the SHD personnel were fully uniformed in a military style and uniform. Yes, that's very true. The uniform for the United States Civil Defense was basically a British style helmet. I want to say that, sort of like, or which was the sort of the style for the Americans in World War I. It was basically that sort of style of helmet. I'm not exactly sure why they used them, either because they maybe started out because the U.S. had a bunch of surplus helmets that they painted, and they painted them white. Had a bunch of surplus ones, and then just as it grew, ordered those style of helmets, and so it's different than the U.S. combat helmets. Or they were also making the same type of helmets to go to the Commonwealth and just siphoned off some. I don't know specifically, but it's sort of that British style of helmet and an armband when they were on duty. Otherwise, it was civilian clothes for the U.S. Civil Defense. And normally a flashlight, because normally they were often on duty at night, and their biggest duty was to make sure the blackouts were enforced. That's about... they did a lot of training and practice, because especially in the early years, they were worried and particularly on the West Coast, possible Japanese invasion. So they were, doing exercises and drills and what to do if kind of thing. But in actual war duty, it was mostly wander around the city at night, and that's why the white armband and the white helmet sort of made them stand out a little bit more. Because you still got to drive, at least in America, still got to drive around with your with headlights on your cars, though they were partially blacked out. You could still sort of see, narrow beams, to sort of try to show up as somewhat visible at night as you moved around. And basically all they had was sort of finding and reporting power to authority. They knock on your door and say you're showing some light or something, and if you refuse to either come to the door or refuse to darken things up or whatever, or did it repeatedly caught, then they would report you to somebody, some official, and then they might take some sort of action, but they had no real policing authority in the U.S. Okay, cool. Just sort of give you what the basics was of the U.S. Civil Defense Program. And of course, outside of the... Yes, we want to do this, and yes, I'm going to remember this time to come down here immediately and put all these up top. It was only for a while they really thought that there was a real chance of an actual invasion. But once that's gone. But they were worried about, main thing was about, in coastal cities and near ports, if there was even a sort of a glow. It doesn't need to be like exactly silhouetted, but just sort of a glow of a city. It could be, we just got a bunch of air voices. That ships at night would be silhouetted and easier targeted. And they were often trying to enter and leave ports and convoys and other groups at night. So it was a real thing, and it was a real front line of the war. And not just American, but shipping was being sunk, and then the fire would, the ship gets hit and blow up and catch on fire, was being seen from the cities quite clearly. So there was a front line of the naval war on both coasts, but actually more submarine attacks on the Atlantic and Texas sort of Gulf Coast area during the war. So that was the real front line of the war, but it was just foremost civil defense. It was just keep the lights off. Okay, the Deutsches Kraftfahrt contains a lot of interesting NSKK information, heavily illustrated with many excellent photographs. Won't go too much more, but this is just the NSKK's magazine. You can sort of see, again, this is the National Socialist Motor Corps stuff, from gas advertisements to pseudo-military type operations and training. Cost us 600 supplies. Okay, we got supplies to hit that now. Good. Okay, battle commander recognition. I think that's one that's jumping. Yeah, far enough. Well, I mean, it's a long due, but we'll wait till 38. I want to get particularly the Air Force, more Air Force HQs. Those need to be done. So do these. And so do these. Those can be updated later. Let's do the most expensive one first. Or the longest one to get researched first, I guess, technically. Okay, the Hindenburg disaster spies. It must be spies. Okay, Ford Work AG. Henry Ford had, before the Nazis came to power, had a factory here. It was pretty major, and plus some other sort of German subsidiary stuff that he was doing. We can either increase foreign investment in the Reich, which improves our relations with the U.S., but just briefly until the 16th of May, so just 10 days. Big hit for 6% for 10 days. But we'll get another industrial capacity out of it, and better relations, and some automotive gain. Or cut too much foreign influence. We're going to continue with foreign influence. I always loved these cars. Back from as a child watching Hogan's Heroes had one of these in the sort of opening credits and used periodically in the show. This was designed by Mercedes-Benz. Big 6-wheel drive staff car. Wanted to sell it to the army or any military or whatever in large numbers. Basically, the army took it and goes, look at it, hey, this is cool, but damn, that's expensive, and said no thank you. That's what happened historically, and they build a bunch. Obviously, you can see 4 right there in one shot. That's actually the King of Spain's car that was given to the King of Spain as a gift. Sorry, that was given to Franco as a gift, but it's now in the King of Spain's collection. The King of Spain has it in his collection of cars, but it was given to Franco. I don't know how he got it. I don't know whether he inherited it after Franco's death or bought it at an auction. I don't know, but the King of Spain does own it, but it was given to Franco. And a few others were bought individually, and then maybe a few small. So some were used. I think it was less than 100 of them were built. But you have the opportunity here to invest in money, metal, supplies, which will get a little automotive gain out of it, which will gain Mercedes W31 staff car gain if you want. I probably should make it more expensive, but and plus you'll gain a factory. It's worth doing if you want, I think. It's just sort of cool. And HQs that are natural. Is this a natural HQ? Yes. You'll see here. This is a natural HQ, isn't it? No, it isn't. Oh, it's yeah. No, it has a you know, a historical image. Sorry, it isn't a natural. I'm talking a normal HQ. Maybe we don't have any on the map at the moment. Yeah, one without an image, not a non-specialized HQ. We'll get not even a full one, but we'll get a partial 1 kilometer, you know, a percentage of 1 kilometer faster movement just for the staffs. So it only affects those. So yes, we will give them that. We'll pay for expensive staff cars. So we're equipping. I just sort of you know, this is created it before Black Ice had all these specially head HQs. But so regular HQs will, for Germany, will go, you know, I think it's like 0.3 of a kilometer faster or something like that. Movement, just a few more staff cars in each HQ is what I figured. Not divisional, but core and above HQs. Okay. Demonstration of the Ritter SA. Again, this is something that I was rather unaware of until starting to look into this, just how big this Ritter SA was. It just doesn't show up in most media. Another little sort of lead soldier or tin soldier, I don't know, but a little metal soldier from the period. SA. You see some photos of them going around, you know, doing different competitions and demonstrations. So this was a pretty big thing, as you can sort of tell already, but just sort of, you know, with all these units, but impressing on you that they were really serious about. And most of the time, these guys aren't practicing with arms. They're just wearing their uniforms and demonstrating their stuff. So that cost you 100 to supply. And they also did these sort of. This is a plaque for one. Actually, 1935 is I found an example, but they were constantly doing it. This was for 160 kilometer cross country rides and competition to improve training of riders to prepare for war. Basically, they'd lay out a course, you know, on the map or whatever, across the country for different distances. This one is commemorating, you know, 160 kilometers, and they would go out and they go riding like this. Again, it wasn't beyond sort of riding across the country and camping out or doing all that in a day or whatever. You know, it wasn't more than just that, but it was different sort of training of field horse use, if you will. And these were going on all the time, you know, in the right season, you know, normally summer, spring, whatever, and wherever their regions, and so they were happening. Okay, this I found interesting looking into it. This is why I added this one here, but we have a chance to, because it pre-existed the war. Travemünde seaplane base was designated as Reich Besieged, the state's overseas port in 1928. A floating dock dimensions to hold the Donier X or 10, I don't know exactly which one, 40 meters by 25 meters, could be submerged to 3.5 meters with a capacity above 100 tons. So that it could, you know, a plane that was a pure seaplane that couldn't go onto land. You could submerge the dock, the plane could come up onto it, and then they would float the dock back up to do repairs or whatever. It was the Estel, a sea airfield and test site by the Reich, or was designated as that in 1933, and they added a military branch and an aeronautics agency should we expand it. So this gives you a chance. This already exists. I've already added it as part of the TRE start, adding the airbase here, because as we can see here, some of these may be like amphibians. This guy looks like on some sort of platform there that's a pure aircraft or water aircraft that's on a skid of some sort that you can pull by the tractor around to do repairs. So obviously they had this big hangar, and this was the test site for naval air operations. And I've even seen some, you know, looking down on it, you know, aerial photos of this, and it's still sort of there, not really, but sort of there. But this was the test site for various, and this is actually the symbol for the Luftwaffe or the Estel, not just here but everywhere. The eagle with the chicks in it. um, symbol for the, experimental agency or whatever. But this is for seaplane experiments. But we can expand the base and get a little bit of training bonuses. Or not. We're going to do so. We can afford the 200 without going the whole... yeah. So, cool. And so now, we've got 2 more levels of airbase. And we need to come down here and put them up there. Obviously, any airplanes can land there. Oh, and also from the aerial photos, there was an actual real, airfield, concrete runway as well, so that regular aircraft could land there as well. But it was set up as a sort of the international air seaport. And when I was first on, why would they put it there? And okay, yeah, it is sort of in a protected bay and region there. But I was sort of thinking, because there's a big, the Germans used seaplanes to get across the Atlantic, and actually had some ships stationed out here that they would land in the ocean and then get picked up and refueled and then put back in the water and continue on, and with small passenger service and airmail like we've sort of seen. So I was wondering, why would they do that there? But then I realized, well, they may be sort of looking at that, but there are also seaplanes flying around, coastally in the Baltics and whatnot. So that did sort of then make sense, that it's sort of not real far east, but it's real far west. So it's sort of centrally located if you're doing seaplane, flying to Sweden or Denmark or Norway or something like that. Did we change this? Yes. Good. So it does sort of make sense. And this is also where the submarine school was. And that's why I moved the U-boat Schul flotilla over here. Oil and gas pipelines tapped by disgruntled citizens, so we lose 1,000 fuel. Bummer. Okay, this has been fun, but the episode's gone on too long. I hope you've all enjoyed it, and of course you can please post questions, comments, suggestions, ideas. You can disagree with me about some of my opinions. I'll take it. I'll readdress my counter argument, and we can just leave it there as a disagreement. And anybody who comes along after can read your opinion and read my opinion. We don't have to argue it out to agree, or argue it out and get mad at each other. Just, you can put your opinions down. It's a legitimate thing. But I'll answer with mine so that people can see both. Thanks so much. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.